After finishing our meal at the Halfling Tavern and spending the night amongst the grateful halflings, we departed for the Evilroot again the next morning, continuing southeast and taking the day to reach the Huelsman River, the traditional boundary between Pirapa and the Evilroot forest. The largest river within Pirapa, traversing from north to south here, the Huelsman was almost a quarter of a mile across and hence impossible to bridge. Instead, a series of ferries and rafts routinely carried travelers across, something we intended to use as well. A large building was nestled along the river's western shoreline, a combination inn, restaurant, and store that looked inviting. Finally, a piece of civilization, Sainairs commented, likely not enjoying the quest so far. Let's go rest and recover. My fellow heroes nodded with approval and I led them to the inn ahead, the thunderous Huelsman River just a few hundred feet beyond. The inn boathouse was large and well visited, set perhaps 50 feet west of the Huelsman beyond, a quarter-mile-wide river nearly impassable due to its strong current. A path led from the back of the inn to the river beyond, terminating near a large wooden raft we could soon use to cross the river. I've been here before, Redfern began, recognizing the location. Father and I passed through here on our way to Chagaria. But where is everyone? Looking about, it didn't take long to recognize that something wasn't right. Typically, dozens of folks would be passing through here on their way either along the river or even across it. Yet the location seemed quiet and still like a cemetery. The grand front door marked the entrance to the inn boathouse, ordinarily an impressive wooden structure that would seem clean and fancy to welcome new guests. Looking closely, however, we noticed that the doors had been forced open from the outside, despite several solid locks to keep them secure from the inside. Their wooden surfaces were also deeply clawed and pitted. I had seen this before when the undead army attacked the main gate of Kathleen. Clearly, the inn had recently been attacked as well. Stepping into the grand common room of the inn, we found dozens of fancy tables, chairs, and accessories all strewn about as if a tornado had torn through the chamber. All sorts of debris lay about, and I couldn't help but be sickened by the stench of decaying flesh hidden amongst the devastation. Dear Sisla, what happened here? Sainairs was the first to gasp. Let's look for survivors. While a thorough search of the room would take hours, we spent enough time to recognize that we stood within a tiny battlefield. Blood lay soaked everywhere and we soon found the corpses of perhaps a dozen patrons. These were not the bodies of adventurers or guards but the innocent victims of a simple establishment. We then heard what sounded like a cry for help coming from outside opposite the destroyed chamber, the doorway leading to the river beyond blocked by several overturned tables. Within the carnage, it appeared that someone had survived, if we could only reach that person. Wading through the wrecked common room, our party quickly cleared away the tables and debris blocking the doorway leading back outside, the swift-flowing Huelsman River itself just 100 feet away or so. My heroes stepped through the eastern door of the inn and returned outdoors, a wooden walkway and tiny grassy field separating us from the Huelsman River beyond. Lying on the ground in a fetal position was an older woman, shouting for help between sobs of terror and heartbreak. Taking point, Ariana quickly stepped forward, asking the woman what was wrong. As we approached the woman, she belted out one final blood-curdling scream, then dropped to the ground lifeless, as if her very soul had just been ripped from her. No! Ariana cried, rushing to the collapsed woman. I naturally rushed to her aid as well, but she appeared to have just died in front of me. Quickly examining the woman, I then found what appeared to be a small note pinned to her shirt. The note simply read "Time to die." For a moment the note didn't make any sense. The dead woman then began to stir and slowly she stood back to her feet, the whites of her eyes replaced with an inky blackness that could only mean one thing: she'd been transformed into a zombie. Our focus on the woman, we recognized too late that dozens of additional undead had circled around us. Moments later, a small army of skeletons, zombies, and even a few ghouls had surrounded us. Our party had been lured into a deadly trap. Needing to defeat the nearest undead to have any hope of surviving the encounter, both Eswin and Ariana attacked the nearest monsters, bashing their bones as Sainairs attempted to turn some of the undead as well. While sustaining some superficial wounds, we were able to defeat the nearest creatures. However, dozens more simply took their place, all of us watching in stunned silence as the undead army slowly shambled forward, apparently sealing our doom. Any last words? Redfern asked, all of us now expecting an imminent death. Wizard, conjure a ring of fire. Eswin demanded, the fighter never willing to surrender. That's a 4th level spell, the magic user responded, almost as stunned by the request as the monsters before us. I don't have that kind of power yet. As the undead monsters closed in, they were suddenly bathed in holy white light and the weaker undead were turned. Standing about 30 feet away to the south was a female human cleric, her holy symbol still glowing from her successful turning. The cleric had miraculously opened a path through which we could escape, we just needed to defeat a few more undead. Before the whole of the undead army could react, we hacked our way toward the human cleric, escaping what should have been a horrible death. Dressed in leather armor and wearing an assortment of leaves, berries, flowers, and other natural materials, the cleric had bravely given our party a chance to flee and we couldn't help but wonder who she was. And who do we owe our gratitude to for saving us? Eswin asked with surprising politeness, not quite as paranoid as I had expected. I am Kartha, and I am here to help. You've been ambushed by the remnants of the undead army that attacked Kathleen. Hurry, let's go. The cleric pointed toward the river 20 feet away, a sturdy raft anchored there ready to take us to the other side of the river and away from the undead ambush. First, however, it appeared the new cleric wanted to join our party, and, at the moment, we needed all the undead turning ability we could get. While we appeared to have gained a new and powerful ally, the whole of the undead army had now recovered from Kartha's turning and gave chase as we turned to flee, the raft just 20 feet away. We quickly reached the wooden raft intended to take us to the eastern shore of the Wilex River. My heroes then undid the raft moorings keeping it tethered to the shore, but we didn't have enough time to depart before the first wave of undead attacked. The party fighting as a cohesive unit, the monsters were soon beaten back and we somehow managed to push the raft away from the shoreline, creating just enough space to save ourselves. The raft connected to a zipline used to pull one's way across the river. All of us then stowed away our weapons and pulled with everything we had, soon putting enough distance between us and the monsters to get away. We had escaped the undead trap at the boathouse. My heroes continued to pull along the ropes guiding us to the eastern shoreline of the Wilex River in silence, the undead army to the west unable to pursue us any longer. As the party began to tend to our wounds, all eyes fell upon the female cleric Kartha and why she would risk her life to save all of us. That was a noble thing you did back there, Ariana began, perhaps the most thankful of the party. Agreed, Eswin added. You are either very brave or very foolish. Why risk your life to try and save us like that? You must understand, Kartha returned, fully expecting the questions. A few days ago, I had a dream, a revelation, that only I could save your party and help you return the life's heart to Kathleen. A revelation? Ariana asked, not sure of Kartha's meaning. My understanding of the term was that there are a few select events that occur within Sycilis which are so profound that a few can know about them even before they happen. Apparently, this Kartha learned of our fated demise at the hands of the undead beyond and was able to circumvent the disaster, luckily for us. You lie. Sainair suddenly blurted out, condemning Kartha on the spot. Sisla would never allow a heathen like you such wondrous insight as a revelation. You need to be banished immediately. Sainair stared at Kartha as if she were the devil herself, surprising all of us. Awkward silence filled the air for a few moments. Kartha then looked at me before taking a step towards Sainair, not intimidated by his outburst whatsoever. I knew why he was so angry, of course. Kartha was a mutin, a pagan priestess who had utterly rejected belief in Sisla as a goddess, and Sainair seemed extremely distrusting of her, even hateful. It wasn't a perspective I shared with Sainair and I was truly surprised by his bitter outlook. I don't care what you think about me personally, Kartha responded, quite familiar with being labeled an outcast because of her minority viewpoint. But I knew the right thing to do was find your party and try to help. I arrived at the inn just an hour before you did. Recognizing Kartha as a new and trustworthy source of information, I asked if she knew anything more about the undead trap that very nearly destroyed our party. I arrived just after the undead attacked the patrons within the boathouse, Kartha responded, heartbroken over their deaths. I saw a woman bathed in glowing white light direct the undead and I watched her prepare the monsters to ambush you. So the angel of death is on to us, Eswin recognized, believing Kartha's story. She knows we're coming for her. Kartha nodded affirmatively, sending a chill down my spine. We'll need a new plan once we find this angel of death, Eswin wisely concluded. We're no match for her unless we somehow regain the element of surprise. All in agreement, we ended the conversation and made camp there on the edge of the river, needing to rest and recover, the monstrous Evilroot forest just 100 yards to the south. Breaking camp along the eastern bank of the Wilex River the next morning, we marched south, the land forested for as far as the eye could see. This was the far northern edge of the dreaded Evilroot forest, and just gazing upon its dreary magnificence was enough to make the less heroic turn and flee. Indeed, as we made our way to a small path penetrating the wood, we felt the temperature suddenly drop and I sensed something horrible approaching. Moments later, a ghostly figure silently glided toward us, its appearance quite ghastly. Trying to suppress my rising fear, I addressed the translucent creature, attempting to converse with it. The levitating apparition seemed to understand me, and it raised its hand and pointed to me with bony fingers before addressing the party in a chill, raspy voice. I am Kriat, the everlasting lord and defender of the Evilroot. You have invaded my homeland, and will pay for this intrusion with your lives. A spectre? Cried Saint Ayers, fumbling for his holy symbol. But I have no chance of turning such undead. I have heard of such monsters before, Eswin whispered, his fear somehow kept in check. But this one does not look how I would have imagined it. Lam Tora, this vision before us does not seem real. Eswin informed me, noticing something very wrong about the apparition. Everyone, it's an illusion. Concentrate. Dispel the illusion. Closing our eyes and clearing our heads, each of us tried to dismiss our fear and we concentrated further, needing to see the potential illusion for what it was. And it worked. Opening our eyes again, the floating specter was gone, the illusion had indeed been dispelled. Not everything is as it seems. An illusion to guard the forest entrance, Eswin spat, shaking his head. A weaker party would have believed it, and perished. This may have been an illusion of him, but the legend of Kriat is very real, Saint Ayers continued, his heart still pounding. He was a formidable dark cleric in life and he's said to still haunt this forest in death. Let's hope we never encounter the real monster within this cursed place. All of us agreed with Saint Ayers, then we continued south and deeper into the wood. We continued along the tiny path for the better part of the next 2 days, growing more afraid by the hour but finding enough clues along the way to convince us that the undead army led by the Angel of Death had passed through here recently. The forest was now so dark that it was nearly impossible to tell day from night. There, some light. Eswin whispered, pointing ahead. Be careful, that may be the enemy camp ahead. We need to get off this path and look for another way forward. Heeding Eswin's advice, we carefully stepped away from the small path to search for another way forward. After an hour of fumbling in the dark, we emerged on the far edge of what appeared to be stony ruins, a lost city deep within the forest. An eerie magical light shined from the center of the ruins perhaps 100 yards ahead, providing enough light to see. And just in time. Waiting in ambush was a small group of skeletons that immediately attacked, including a large bear skeleton that had to be destroyed before we could move on. These are the Onyx Ruins, began Saint Ayers, clearly disturbed. It's said that a powerful dark elf before the birth of Sisla 1,200 years ago opened a portal to the realm of nightmares here and unleashed thousands of demons and undead to attack our world. Sisla defeated this drow, closed the portal and buried these ruins. We should not be gazing upon them. Wait a moment, now I remember. Redfern whispered in surprise. The Sislans claimed that Sandaria was caught excavating these ruins, and that's how the first armies of the undead were unleashed upon Kathleen a year ago. Yes, that Mad Circle representative must have been behind all of this. Saint Ayers added. Regardless, we need to move forward. Eswin interjected, quite uncomfortable with the party's relative exposure on the fringe of the ruins. Let's go. I nodded, and Eswin took point as the party silently moved toward the center of the ruins, trying our best to avoid the light overhead and not make ourselves easily seen. After meandering through the ruins, we soon found a large stone temple, certainly weathered and damaged but still in modest shape despite being buried for centuries. 2 heavy doors allowed access to the temple's interior and we cautiously stepped inside. The interior of the temple was some 100 feet by 40 feet, a once magnificent gathering and worshipping place that had been all but destroyed over centuries of existence. More magical light emanated from the far end of the temple, drawing our attention and leading us there a few minutes later. Now standing at the opposite end of the temple, we quickly found something large, perhaps 20 feet tall, covered by a grey tarp. What really attracted our attention, however, was the equally large glassy globe levitating off the floor here, a swirling, murky substance gently churning inside. Upon spotting the sphere, Saint Ayers gasped, recognizing the object for what it was. Dear Sisla, We've found the Onyx Seal, gateway to the realm of nightmares. Our party carefully approached the globe and searched it. The object felt like it was made of glass and emitted no heat nor sound. Moments later, a horrific flaming demon appeared from within the globe, then another and another, until dozens were silently bouncing off the sphere from within. Clearly, should the Onyx Seal be broken, these monsters would flood the temple and attack. Standing there in stunned silence, we continued to watch the fire demons flood the murky interior of the seal, clawing at us as if trying to escape. Saint then continued, quite shaken by the ghastly encounter. It appears that Sisla's seal is still holding up. We should ensure that the seal is secure, feel for any weak points upon its surface. While the Onyx Seal was somewhat scarred and pitted, the magic holding the seal together was solid and secured. It was currently impossible for the demons to escape. So you found it? Came a woman's voice from behind, taking our party completely by surprise. Bathed in white light perhaps 30 feet away was the Angel of Death, a glowing female figure with tremendous magical power. Stunned, we watched helplessly as the woman finished a spell, paralyzing our muscles and immobilizing us. The Angel of Death then levitated us into the air, mocking us as we rose 10 feet off the temple floor and over a large, seemingly bottomless pit in the far corner. I could still look about and even speak but was otherwise paralyzed. Studying the Angel of Death, her radiance was brilliant, almost beautiful, and her raw magical power was undeniable. Indeed, our entire party was no match for her so long as she had the upper hand. The Angel of Death then relaxed the glowing magic all about her, appearing as a normal human sorceress. She then stepped alongside the tarped object near the Onyx Seal, completely in control. Sandaria. Saint gasped, nearly disbelieving his eyes. But you were executed. I watched you burn. The woman scoffed, annoyed by Saint. Yes, Jepinor and your Sislanway tried to murder me. Me. The Lord of Kathleen, an inner circle representative. Now I will have my revenge, break Sisla's Onyx Seal and plunge the world back into the age of damnation. We knew you were wicked. Saint shouted, bravely making his case. You sought to undermine the Sislanway and we put a stop to you. Fool. Sandaria returned, her anger venomous. You religious zealots are all the same, convinced your interpretation of history is correct and worshipping things that don't exist. But all you did was enslave the people. I spent my entire life trying to undo your lies, and for that I was tortured and burned alive. To hell with all of you, now I will have my revenge. How did you escape? Eswin bitterly asked, all too familiar with magic users gone out of control. Who said I escaped? Sandaria channeled away the remaining magic surrounding her, revealing her true form. She'd been hideously burned. Without her cosmetic magic, Sandaria appeared ghastly. Her hair was gone, she was missing her right eye and scar tissue heaved and twisted all over her body. Suddenly, Sandaria looked to be the true victim and for a moment I took intense pity on her. Even Jepinor underestimated my power and I was able to teleport away at the last moment. But not before the fire had all but consumed me and burned me to my very soul. I had the best interests of all within Kathleen at heart, and yet they betrayed me and tried to murder me. The Sislans thought they were sending me to hell, but I will show them hell itself. Utterly disgusted with her true form, Sandaria magically altered herself again, appearing as she did before the Sislans cruelly burned her at the stake. Sandaria pulled the tarp away from the large object standing beside the Onyx Seal, revealing a 20-foot-tall statue of a perfect warrior. Embedded in its right hand was the Life's Heart. We had found the holy relic. But the Angel of Death, Sandaria, had other plans for both our party as well as the Life's Heart. The Life's Heart contains nearly limitless power, but to shatter the Onyx Seal I need to steal the soul of a true hero to reach that power. This Kartha will do nicely. I shall extract her soul, bring my golem to life, command it to destroy the Onyx Seal and allow the legions of hell to flood this wicked world. Red Fern, you're altruistic, do something. Ariana suddenly cried out, surprising all of us. Save us. Expecting the wizard to summon his power and free us, Red Fern merely frowned and looked away, just as magically imprisoned as the rest of us. Now, wizard. Eswin added, dismayed by Red Fern's reaction. Strike her down and free us. Recalling the times Red Fern had bragged about being altruistic and someone destined to sit on the inner circle, certainly now was the perfect time to call him out. Surely, he could do something about this Sandaria and save all of us. I can't. The wizard finally shouted, now utterly desperate. It's no use, I can't do it. But you're a truistic, destined to sit on the inner circle someday. Ariana cried out, her faith in him beginning to buckle. You can match your magic against hers. A truistic? Sandaria scoffed, surprised by the statement. This fool thinks he's a truistic? The nerve. Redfern squirmed a bit more but was utterly helpless. And now, one of his darkest secrets was being revealed as well, and there was little he could do about it. Wait, you're not a truistic? Ariana finally condemned, recognizing the truth. You've been lying to us all along? Are you even a real magic user? Of all things, Redfern then began to weep, begging for forgiveness, and it wasn't a pretty sight. The anger and resentment boiling in me as well, I unleashed several choice words, condemning Redfern for his lies and charlatan ways. If, somehow, we were to escape this deadly encounter, I swore to myself that Redfern would pay for deceiving the party like this. As Redfern continued to sob, and clearly unable to help our party in any way, I looked around frantically for some way out of our situation. Paralyzed and levitating above a dark, bottomless pit, I realized that our only hope was to somehow convince Sandaria not to destroy us, attempting to play on her reason. Sandaria, if you break the seal, you will die too. Please, stop this madness, it's not too late. Unfortunately, I had no chance of changing her mind at this point. Sandaria was completely blinded by revenge and was quite prepared now to do the unthinkable. Instead of freeing us, the former representative simply stared into my soul, her need for blind vengeance absolute. Despite her own elvish innocence, Ariana then called down with one last question. Representative Sandaria, why do this? You've been betrayed, yes. But the world is also a place of honor and beauty and discovery. We can all just get along, why do all this? Sandaria smirked in her insanity, her response icy cold. To watch it all burn. Having had enough of our party, all I could do was watch as Sandaria pulled Kartha away and magically bound her to the statue, fastening her to the crystal object with no chance of escape. Kartha's fate now appeared sealed, but what would Sandaria do with the rest of us? Beneath you lies the tomb of Huelsman, occupied by an angry ghost who destroys all who enter. I've got what I need, now the rest of you can drop dead. And with that, Sandaria released us from her levitation spell, our entire party, minus Kartha falling directly into the pit in the floor and quickly disappearing into the inky blackness below. And that's a wrap of episode number 9, Horror of the Evilroot. Expect additional episodes every few weeks as the story continues. Looking